"Sir, with all due respect, maybe you should try the used car lot down the street. Our vehicles here start at $85,000. Derek Morrison's voice echoed through the gleaming Premium Motors showroom, loud enough for all salespeople and customers to hear clearly. Miguel Santos, 58, stood in the center of Los Angeles's most luxurious showroom, his calloused fingers still lightly touching the hood of the silver SUV that had caught his eye. He wore faded jeans and a simple work shirt, the uniform of someone who had just gotten off a shift as a janitor at the city hospital. That moment should have been special. After 32 years of working honestly in the United States, saving every penny, Miguel finally had enough money to buy a decent car. Not for him, for his daughter Isabella, who would graduate in medicine the following week. He wanted to surprise her with something worthy of all the effort she had put into her studies. "I'm looking for a car for my daughter," replied Miguel in his English with a Filipino accent, maintaining his dignity despite feeling all the judgmental eyes on him. "She's graduating from medical school." Derek let out a laugh that sounded more like a bark. At age 35, he was Premium Motors' most successful sales manager, known for closing million-dollar contracts with celebrities and executives. His monthly commission exceeded what Miguel earned in an entire year. "Medical school, that's cute." Derek exchanged a knowing look with Brandon, another salesman who was watching the scene with a mischievous smile. "Look, buddy, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but we don't have time for window shoppers. This is a serious dealership for serious buyers." A blonde customer examining a red Mercedes convertible stopped to observe the situation. Her upturned nose and dismissive expression made it clear that she completely agreed with Derek's approach. Miguel took a deep breath, remembering Isabella as a child, studying in the dim light of her small rented house, determined to become a doctor despite all the difficulties. He had promised himself that he would never let anyone make his daughter feel inferior. "I have money," Miguel said calmly, but something about the firmness of his voice made Derek hesitate for a split second. "I work hard, save for many years." "Sure you do." Derek crossed his arms, his Rolex watch gleaming under the showroom lights. "Tell you what, show me $50,000 in cash right now, and I'll personally show you our budget-friendly options. Otherwise, I have actual clients to attend to." Brandon let out a laugh as he returned to his table, clearly finding the situation hilarious. The blonde customer whispered something to the salesperson who was serving her, both of them laughing discreetly. Miguel looked around the showroom, the shiny cars, the salespeople in their expensive suits, the well-dressed customers who stared at him as if he were a speck in an otherwise immaculate room. For a brief moment, his eyes revealed something Derek couldn't interpret. It wasn't anger, nor shame. It was the serenity of someone who had faced much worse prejudice and survived to witness justice being served. "My daughter," Miguel began, his voice low but firm, "she will be here soon, very soon." Derek arched an eyebrow, already losing patience. "Your daughter? Great, bring her then. Maybe she'll understand reality better than you." What Derek Morrison didn't know, what none of those arrogant people in the showroom knew, was that Isabella Santos wasn't just another med student, and the car she was driving at that very moment towards the store would make them all swallow every word of contempt they had spat. Miguel looked at his watch. Isabella had said she would arrive in 15 minutes. 15 minutes was all he needed to wait to see the expression on Derek's face change completely. While everyone in the showroom looked at him with disdain, Miguel stood his ground like someone harboring a secret too powerful to be revealed before the right time. A secret that was just 14 minutes away from turning that moment of humiliation into something no one would ever forget. Because sometimes the best response to prejudice isn't words, it's simply waiting for the truth to arrive while driving a vehicle that costs more than the annual salary of those who scorned you. If this story of prejudice and justice touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to discover how a simple moment of discrimination would turn into a lesson that everyone at Premium Motors would learn in the most humbling way possible. Miguel stood still in the center of the showroom, his eyes slowly scanning the shiny vehicles around him. Each car represented years of honest work, double shifts, sacrificed holidays, century-saved economies per penny. But at that moment, none of this seemed to matter to the people around him. Derek Morrison returned to his glass table in the corner of the showroom, where he already served another client. A man of gray suit who chose between two models of Porsche, as if deciding between ice cream flavors. Occasionally, Derek was looking at Miguel's direction, followed by inaudible giggles and comments that clearly targeted him. "Do you want me to call security?" Brandon whispered to Derek, loud enough for Miguel to hear. "He has been here for 10 minutes just looking, probably planning something." The blonde client who watched Mercedes Vermelia approached a saleswoman named Ashley. "You don't have any policy about who can come in here? I mean, I would feel more comfortable buying a $120,000 car in a more exclusive environment." Ashley nodded sympathetically. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Davidson. Usually the manager solves these situations quickly. Miguel listened to everything, each word penetrating like fine needles. But he had long learned that dignity has not come from how others treat you. It comes from how you behave when being mistreated. He thought of Isabella, now 26, who had faced similar prejudices throughout his academic journey. His mind returned to 12 years ago when Isabella was only 14. She had come home crying after a school meeting, where the educational advisor suggested that she considered more realistic options than medicine. People like you usually do better in technical careers, man had said, as if offering generous advice. That night Miguel held her daughter's hands and said something she would never forget. Bella, the world will try to make you small, but remember, they only do it because they are afraid of how much you can shine. Isabella studied as a possession. While her colleagues went to parties and social events, she spent weekends in libraries. When other students had expensive tutors, she found retired teachers willing to help her narrowly or nothing, and when he finally entered the medical school, it was at the top of his class. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you're not making a purchase. Derek's sharp voice brought Miguel back to the present. The manager had approached again, this time with his arms crossed in a clearly intimidating stance. Miguel looked at the wall clock above the reception counter. Isabella should arrive in 8 minutes. 8 minutes that would seem like an eternity under those judgmental looks. I wait for my daughter, repeated Miguel, his calm but firm voice. She eats soon. Derek let out an exaggerated breath of frustration. Look, buddy, I don't know what game you're playing, but this is a business. We can have people just hanging around making our customers uncomfortable. Making them uncomfortable? Miguel's voice got slightly stronger. I make them uncomfortable? Brandon joined Derek, forming a subtle physical barrier between Miguel and the most expensive cars of the showroom. Maybe it's time to go, man, before this becomes a bigger problem. What none of them knew was that Isabella was not just a medical student about to graduate. 3 months ago, she had received an exceptional proposal from St. Mary's Hospital, one of the most prestigious medical centers on the West Coast, not just for a residence position, but to head a new pediatric cardiology program. The starting salary was $350,000 annually, with hiring bonus of $100,000. But what really impressed the hospital council was its revolutionary research on minimally invasive treatments for congenital heart defects in children of needy communities. Isabella had used her own experience of growing without resources to develop protocols that reduced costs by 60% without compromising the quality of treatment. His thesis was published in 3 international medical magazines. At 26, she was being courted by the best hospitals in the country, and when St. Mary's offered office, they included a welcome gift, a $150,000 voucher, to choose the vehicle she wanted as part of the executive package. Isabella had called Miguel the same night, crying for joy. Father, I can finally return everything you did for me. Bella, you owe me nothing, Miguel had answered, his embargoed voice. You are my biggest achievement. So let me do something, Isabella insisted. Let me give you the car you always wanted. Let's go to the dealership together, and you choose. But Miguel had another plan. He wanted to go alone first, see the cars, maybe even choose some models for most till his daughter when she arrived. He imagined it would be a special moment, a proud father preparing a surprise for his brilliant daughter. What he didn't imagine was that he would be treated like a potential intruder. Last chance, buddy. Derek now had his cell phone in his hand, clearly prepared to make a call. Leave voluntarily, or I call the cops for trespassing. Miguel looked at his watch once again. 6 minutes. You call police for man who waits for his daughter? Miguel asked, and for the first time there was a note of something different in his voice. Not anger, but an unshakable firmness. Do you really want to do that? Something in Miguel's tone made Derek hesitate. It was the confidence of someone who knew exactly what was about to happen, but chose to wait patiently for the right moment. Brandon felt the change too. Derek, maybe we just... No, Derek interrupted, his arrogance returning in full force. I've been running this store for 7 years and I've never let some nobody turn my showroom into a waiting room. He dialed a number on his cell phone. Yes, security? We have a situation in the main showroom. Guy refusing to leave. Can you send someone? Miguel didn't move. His eyes met Derek's, and for a brief moment, the manager saw something that made him swallow hard. Not defiance, not anger, but the absolute calm of someone who was about to witness justice being served. Because what Derek Morrison didn't know, what none of those arrogant people knew, was that Isabella Santos wasn't just driving an expensive car. She was bringing with her something far more powerful, living proof that prejudice and privilege always lose when pitted against talent, hard work, and unwavering dignity. And in exactly 5 minutes, the sound of a powerful engine would echo through the street, announcing not only the arrival of a luxury vehicle, but the moment when every contemptuous word uttered in that showroom would come back to haunt whoever said it. Every insult Derek hurled was building its own humiliation, and the clock kept ticking, heedless of the arrogance that was about to meet its reckoning. Security arrived at the showroom 3 minutes later, a burly man named Frank, who had known Derek for years. "What's the matter here? This guy is refusing to leave." Derek pointed at Miguel dismissively. "You've been here for over 15 minutes without making any purchases, bothering our real customers." Frank looked at Miguel, who remained standing in the same spot, his eyes calm and steady. There was something about the man's posture that didn't match Derek's description. He didn't seem threatening, just confident. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises," said Frank, but his tone was less aggressive than expected. "My daughter arrives in 4 minutes," Miguel replied simply, showing his phone where a message from Isabella flashed on the screen. "Dad, I'm 5 minutes away. Get ready for a surprise." What no one in the showroom knew was that Isabella wasn't just driving an expensive car. 3 days earlier, she had contacted Marcus Chen, a discrimination lawyer who had become her friend during medical school. "Marcus, I need some advice," Isabella had said during the video call. "I'm going to buy my dad a car, but I know these kinds of dealerships. I know how they'll treat him if he shows up alone." Marcus smiled, adjusting his glasses. "You want to document everything, don't you?" "Exactly." Over the next 3 days, Isabella meticulously prepared every detail. She contacted the regional president of Premium Motors, sent a formal letter expressing interest in purchasing not one, but potentially 3 high-end vehicles, totaling over $400,000 in purchases. The letter mentioned his position at St. Mary's Hospital and his substantial purchasing power. "Dr. Santos," the president had responded personally via email, "it would be an honor to welcome you to our dealership. Please let us know when you plan to visit so that we can prepare an appropriate VIP service." Isabella didn't respond. Instead, he asked Marcus for something different. "I need you to send someone to document everything discreetly, with cameras, if possible." Marcus had contacts. Within 2 hours, he had hired James Rodriguez, a private investigator who frequently worked on discrimination cases. James arrived at the Premium Motors showroom at exactly 2:30 in the afternoon, disguised as a regular customer interested in a luxury sedan. He had been there for 30 minutes, pretending to examine vehicles while his hidden cameras, one on his shirt button, another on the sunglasses attached to his collar, captured every second of Miguel's humiliation, every comment from Derek, every laugh from Brandon, every look of disdain from the blonde client. Every word discreet ministry was being recorded in high definition, with crystalline audio. Perfect. James had sent a text message to Marcus 5 minutes earlier. "Got everything. This is textbook discrimination. They're burying themselves." But Isabella wanted more than just legal evidence. She wanted everyone to see, that everyone knew, that no one ever forgot what happens when you judge someone by looking. So she did something else. She hired Sarah Mitchell, an influencer of social networks specializing in exposing corporate injustices. Sarah had 2.3 million followers and a reputation to destroy companies that practiced discrimination. "Are you sure about it?" Sarah had asked when Isabella explained the plan. "This will become viral. It will end the reputation of this dealership." "I am absolutely sure," Isabella replied, her cold voice like ice. "My father has worked honestly for 32 years in this country. He deserves respect, not humiliation." Sarah was now parked across the street, positioned professional cameras, ready to capture the exact moment when Isabella would arrive by driving her Porsche Taycan Turbo S Black, valued at $187,000, followed by a Premium Motors delivery truck carrying the gift she had bought to Miguel, a completely equipped black Range Rover, evaluated in $145,000. She had bought both online vehicles 3 days earlier, directly from the Premium Motors matrix in Beverly Hills, specifically to avoid the Los Angeles branch where she knew her father would be mistreated. Beverly Hills manager was so impressed by the purchase of $332,000 in cash that offered free delivery of both vehicles. "Miss Santos, it will be a pleasure to personally deliver these vehicles where you wish," the manager had said. "I want to be delivered to the Los Angeles branch," Isabella instructed, "tomorrow at 3 p.m., and I want you personally to be present for delivery." Back at showroom, Derek was losing patience. "Frank, just get this guy from here. I don't care if his daughter is coming or not." "Mr. Morrison, we may only," Frank started, but was interrupted by a sound that made everyone at showroom turning their heads. The unmistakable roar of a high-performance electric motor, smooth but powerful, impossible to ignore. Through the huge glass window of the dealership, a bright black Porsche Taycan slid to the main entrance as a predatory panther. Its state-of-the-art LED headlights blinked once, The vehicle was worth more than Derek earned in 2 years. Miguel smiled discreetly. My daughter is here. Derek frowned, confused. Brandon stopped in the middle of the hall, observing the Porsche with involuntary admiration. The blonde client let out a sigh of envy. The driver's door opened, and from the inside was Isabella Santos. At 26, she wore an elegant medical blazer and carried an Italian leather paste. Her eyes met her father's through the glass, and she smiled, not a smile of joy, but of cold determination. Behind Porsche, a second vehicle doubled the corner, a premium motors delivery truck, transporting the black Range Rover that shone under the Californian sun like a dark jewel. And next to the truck in a discreet sedan was Michael Hartford, the Premium Motors regional president, who had been personally summoned by Isabella to witness the delivery of a purchase of $332,000. Derek Morrison didn't know yet, but his career was over the moment he decided that a Philippine man of simple clothes did not deserve to be treated with respect. Isabella walked to the entrance of showroom, her jumps echoing in the concrete. His cameras were recording. The tests were documented. His lawyer was ready. The influencer was broadcasting live to millions. And his father, the man who sacrificed everything so that she could be there, would finally receive not only an apology, but a public and humiliating demonstration that dignity is not measured by appearance but by character. What Derek Morrison could not understand while watching that elegant woman entering the showroom was simple. When you humiliate someone who has a daughter capable of moving mountains, he is not just making a mistake, he is signing his own sentence of professional destruction, and the hammer of justice was about to fall with devastating force over everything he thought he controlled. Isabella pushed the showroom's glass door with the confidence of those who already knew exactly how the next 15 minutes would unfold. Her eyes met Miguel immediately, and something in his eyes, pride mixed with early satisfaction, made her smile. Derek Morrison turned to hear the door, prepared to receive a new client. Your automatic smile. The salesman froze for a split second when he saw the impeccable elegance of the woman who entered, but quickly recovered. Good afternoon. Welcome to Premium Motors. Derek began, already walking towards him with his hand outstretched. How may I help you today? Isabella completely ignored the outstretched hand. Her eyes scanned the showroom until they found Brandon, then the blonde customer, and finally returned to Derek. Are you the manager here? Yes, Derek Morrison, sales manager. He lowered his hand, slightly embarrassed. And you are? Dr. Isabella Santos. She let the title hang in the air for a moment before continuing. And this, she walked up to Miguel and placed her hand on his father's shoulder, is my father, Miguel Santos. Derek's face changed immediately, first confusion, then recognition, and finally the beginning of barely concealed panic. Your father? Derek repeated, his voice losing all arrogant confidence. Yes, my father. Isabella turned to face Derek fully. The man you were trying to get out of here less than 2 minutes ago. The man you called Buddy like he was a lost child. The man you treated like he was a suspected criminal. Brandon had stopped in the middle of the showroom, his face pale. The blonde customer was trying to discreetly move away towards the exit, but Isabella noticed her. Please stay, said Isabella, her voice sharp as glass. You are also part of this story. After all, you commented on right people frequenting proper establishments, didn't you? The woman froze, clearly torn between shame and the desire to disappear. At that moment, Michael Hartford entered the showroom. The regional president of Premium Motors was 52 years old, with impeccably coiffed gray hair, and an expression that suggested he would rather be anywhere else in the world. Dr. Santos, he greeted Isabella with a formal nod. It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Derek blinked, confused. Mr. Hartford, I didn't know that. Of course you didn't know, Hartford interrupted, his voice icy. Because you were too busy humiliating a potential customer to check if there were any important purchases being processed. The delivery truck stopped in front of the showroom, and 2 employees began unloading the black Range Rover. Through the glass, everyone could see the shiny vehicle being carefully positioned. That, said Isabella, pointing to the Range Rover, is the gift I bought for my father. A Range Rover autobiography valued at $145,000. And that, she pointed to her Porsche Taycan in the driveway, is the vehicle I bought for myself. $187,000. The silence in the showroom was absolute. Even Frank, the security guard, had stopped moving. $332,000 worth of vehicles, Isabella continued, her voice calm but filled with authority. Purchased 3 days ago directly from the headquarters in Beverly Hills. Paid in cash. Derek felt his legs weaken. Brandon was visibly sweating. But here's the interesting part, Isabella continued, taking her phone out of her bag. When my dad told me he was coming here today to check it out before I arrived, I knew exactly what would happen, so I took some precautions. She waved to James Rodriguez, who had remained discreet until that moment. James walked over, removing his sunglasses from his shirt collar to reveal the hidden camera. This is James Rodriguez, a private investigator who specializes in discrimination cases. He's been here for the last 2 hours documenting everything. Isabella touched the phone screen. Every comment, every dismissive look, every discriminatory word. She turned the phone around to show Derek. The screen showed himself saying, "Look, buddy, I don't know what game you're playing, but we don't have time for window shoppers." "That's," Derek started, but his voice trailed off. "Discrimination?" Isabella completed. "Yes, that's exactly it. And here's the best part. This isn't just for a lawsuit, although my lawyer Marcus Chen is very excited about this stuff." Isabella gestured toward the street where Sarah Mitchell stood across the street with professional filming equipment. "That's Sarah Mitchell. You might know her. 2.3 million social media followers specializing in exposing corporate discrimination." Derek's face was now completely white. Is this being broadcast?" "Live," confirmed Isabella. "For 2.3 million people. Comments have already exceeded 10,000. Apparently people don't like it very much when honest workers are humiliated for their appearance." Brandon tried to discreetly get out of the camera's frame, but it was too late. "Mr. Hartford," Isabella turned to the regional president, "thank you for personally coming to deliver my purchase, but I need to informing it of something important. I will cancel the purchase of both vehicles." Hartford swallowed dry. $332,000 in sales. "Yes, I will take my money to the concessionaire Prestige Auto, 3 blocks from here. I spoke to their manager this morning. He assured that my father would be treated with the respect that any human being deserves." Derek finally found his voice desperate. "Dr. Santos, please, there was a terrible misunderstanding. I didn't know." "Didn't you know what?" Isabella's voice cut like a blade. "Didn't you know my father had a successful daughter? What if he didn't? What if he was just a humble caretaker trying to buy a used car? That would make it acceptable to treat him like garbage?" She stepped toward Derek, her voice becoming lower but infinitely more powerful. "My father worked 32 years in this country. He woke up at 5 in the morning every day. He cleared hospitals, offices, bathrooms. He sent every penny left to giving me education. He has more dignity on his little finger than you have in the whole body." Tears began to run through Miguel's face, not in sadness but of deep pride for his daughter. "And now," Isabella turned to Hartford, "I will do something else. I will ensure that this story comes to every corporate advice, each diversity training program, each discrimination seminar. Premium Motors will be the perfect example of how to treat customers." Hartford cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "Dr. Santos, on behalf of the company, Your excuses don't matter to my father," Isabella interrupted him. "What matters are actions. Derek Morrison and Brandon here." She pointed to both. "Will they be fired?" I will need to investigate formally, but so, let me make your decision easier." Isabella rang on her phone again. "I already sent this video to the Premium Motors Legal Department, the Better Business Bureau, and for 3 major press vehicles. The investigation is done. The evidence is documented. The only question is, will your company do the right thing?" Derek was now visibly trembling. His 7-year career, his folding commissions, his reputation in the industry, everything collapsing in real time. "Please," he murmured, but couldn't complete the sentence. Isabella took Miguel's hand. "Come on, Dad. We have a better dealership to visit." As they walked toward the door, Isabella stopped and turned one last time. "Oh, and Derek? That comment about people like my father? The internet never forgets. Good luck finding a job when all research of your name show you humiliating an honest worker." The hammer of justice had fallen with devastating force, but the story still had a final chapter. Because destroying the career of prejudiced men was only the beginning, true revenge would come to show the whole world that dignity is not measured for money, but for the legacy we built through love, sacrifice, and unshakable strength in the face of injustice. And this legacy was about to be eternalized in a way that no one would ever forget. 6 months later, Miguel Santos parked his Range Rover Black in front of St. Mary's Hospital, where Isabella had been promoted to pediatric cardiology director, the youngest in the history of the hospital. He visited his daughter weekly, always proudly on his face. The confrontation video at Premium Motors had become viral, and any expectation, 47 million views, more than 300,000 shares, hundreds of press vehicles covering the story. Sarah Mitchell turned the case into a 3-party documentary series on luxury establishments. Derek Morrison never worked in the automotive sector. No dealership would hire him after his name became synonymous with corporate prejudice. His last update on LinkedIn, before erasing the profile completely, mentioned a customer service work in a convenience store, earning in a month what he once earned in a day. Brandon was also fired and moved to another state, trying to escape notoriety. The blonde client, identified as Patricia Davidson, resigned from her family business after sponsors began canceling contracts due to her association with discrimination. Michael Hartford has implemented a mandatory anti-discrimination training program on all 47 premium motors dealers on the West Coast. The program used the video of the confrontation with Miguel as an example of what never to do. Isabella herself was invited to give lectures on respect and human dignity. "It's ironic," Isabella said during an interview with CNN. "My father taught more about leadership in 15 minutes of silent dignity than many CEOs learn in whole careers." The Prestige Auto, the competitor concessionaire where Isabella finally bought vehicles, tried a 340% increase in sales in the following months. Customers of all origins made a point of buying there, citing respectful treatment as a decisive factor. Prestige Auto manager Marcus Williams, a 52-year-old black man who had faced similar discrimination at the beginning of his career, hired Miguel as a client experience consultant. "You understand better than anyone what it means to be treated with dignity," Marcus explained. "I want you to train my team." Miguel accepted, not for the money. Isabella had assured him that he would never have to work again, but for the opportunity to make a difference. Every week he shared his story with new salespeople, reminding them that each customer deserves respect, regardless of its appearance. James Rodriguez, the private researcher, received dozens of new cases after his participation in the Premium Motors exhibition became public. "You gave me instant credibility," he told Isabella during a coffee. "Now I can really help people who face discrimination." Marcus Chen, the lawyer, used the case as a precedent in other actions against discriminatory establishments. In 18 months, he won 12 cases, resulting in $4.3 million in compensation for prejudice victims and mandatory implementation of anti-discrimination policies in hundreds of companies. Sarah Mitchell expanded her channel to 5.7 million followers, becoming the most influential voice against corporate discrimination on social networks. She credited Miguel's case as the turning point of her career. "It was the most authentic story I've ever documented," she said. "It was not staged. It was not exaggerated. It was just the raw reality of what people face daily." Frank, the security guard who had been called to remove Miguel, resigned from Premium Motors 2 weeks after the incident. He began working at Prestige Auto, where he embraced the philosophy that security means protecting everyone's dignity, not just removing unwanted people. Isabella continued ascending professionally. His research on pediatric cardiology was published in 5 international prestigious medical magazines. She received hospital offers in New York, Boston, and even London, but refused all to stay close to Miguel. "My father spent 32 years away from the Philippines to give me opportunities," she explained in an interview. "I won't spend the next 32 years away from him pursuing status. I learned from him what a success is not where you arrive, but who you take with you." In the morning of Isabella's graduation, the event to which Miguel originally wanted to buy a car, she took the stage to receive her doctoral degree in medicine. Miguel was in the front row, tears running freely on his face. "I dedicate this diploma," Isabella told the microphone, her voice echoing for the crowded auditorium, "to the man who taught me that dignity is not bought, it is not begged, it is not negotiated. My father worked 32 years so that I could be here, and every second of humiliation he faced just proved that people like Derek Morrison never understood something fundamental. You can take the money, but you can take the opportunity, but you can take the money, but you can, the character." The audience exploded in prolonged applause. Teachers, colleagues, hospital administrators, all standing, recognizing not only Isabella's academic conquest, but the moral triumph of her family. 3 months later, Miguel received an unexpected letter. It was from Derek Morrison, handwritten, trembled, clearly difficult. "Mr. Santos, I do not expect your forgiveness. I do not deserve it, but I need to know that I lost much more than my job. I lost my humanity for years without realizing it. You have returned it as painful as possible. Thanks for that, even if I can never return the evil I caused." Miguel never answered, not for cruelty, but because some lessons need to be learned in the silence of their own conscience. Today, the Range Rover Black that Isabella bought for Miguel has a discreet adhesive on the rear window. Dignity is priceless. Every time Miguel drives the streets of Los Angeles, people recognize him. Some honked in solidarity, others wave. A man once ran to the window in a traffic light just to squeeze his hand. "Thanks for showing that we can keep dignity even when they try to take everything out," the man said, tears in their eyes. Isabella opened a foundation called Dignity First, dedicated to helping children of immigrants to access higher education. The foundation has already granted 127 full scholarships, turning lives into a scale that it had not even imagined possible. The story of Miguel and Isabella is not just about revenge or justice. It is about something much deeper. It's about how PR Econeo always underestimates the strength of those it considers inferior. It's about how dignity, when faced with disrespect, shines brighter than any status or money. Derek Morrison tried to humiliate a Filipino janitor for his appearance. Instead, he inadvertently created a living legend about respect, sacrifice, and the unbeatable power of remaining worthy. When the world tries to make you feel small, the best revenge was never destroying those who wronged you. It was building something so extraordinary that it makes their opinion completely irrelevant. And sometimes the greatest victory is not making your enemies suffer, but making the whole world witness that prejudice always loses when faced with unwavering dignity and unconditional love between a father and daughter. How many times have you been underestimated just because of your appearance? Share your story in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this prove that real justice doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it simply waits patiently for the moment when the truth arrives, driving something much more powerful than any luxury car: unbreakable human dignity.